Hi everybody out there in that big old universe. I'm going to take a leap of faith today and go live in my studio. So thanks for joining me. It's a beautiful, rainy, gorgeous day out here in Bat Cave. You can see out the window of my studio all kinds of beautiful birds hopping around the yard looking for some seeds on their journey south this year. We're going to start off with my usual opening rituals. I'll take a few minutes to get grounded and clear some energy and see where we end up. We're going to make a rune today, the rune of Kano, which is pretty fitting as that's the rune of opening, and I haven't been in my studio for a few weeks now. It's been a little while due to some wildfires in the area, and threw my back out last week. So we're going to get warmed up and see where this goes. I typically start with a little bit of Palo Santo and some sage. Clear the energy a little bit. Make sure there's nothing lingering from this week. This stuff is used as a shamanic practice to clear energies, so pay particular attention to my arms and auras and such. It's a real great way to get things cleared for the day. Nice intention setters. But I'm definitely going to call in the highest and greatest good today. Got lots of ideas and creative ideas while I was out for the week and working on clearing wildfire breaks. Whew, let's go ahead and get started. I've been blowing glass for about 7 years now. I picked up an apprenticeship while I was living in Austin. Worked for them for about a year, and pretty much as soon as I walked out the door from that apprenticeship, I've been working for myself ever since. I'm using a mix of oxygen and propane coming out of this torch right in front of you. It's a Red Max surface mix. That doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you, but some of you glassblowers out there know what I'm talking about. The color of our room today is going to be Silver Iris, one of my favorite colors. It's got a nice translucent purple with some fuming colors in it. Fuming colors got some metals in them, so they change color as you heat them up and put them through the kiln and such. Pretty cool stuff. But back to the rune that I wrote today. I was on the way into the studio and got the urge to pull a rune, which I don't do every day, but I did, and got the rune of Kano. Kano is the rune of opening and the rune of fire and torch, which somehow I've never noticed that before. Every time I've worked with Kano, I've never noticed that it's the rune of opening with a fire and a torch, and since I haven't been on the studio for a while, I'm reopening things, and of course I'm working with fire and my torch, so it's a pretty beautiful message, but it helped me to step back and set some real clear intentions for today to pull in the light and pull in the highest and greatest good and make some really beautiful creative things that make a difference out on the planet out there. I certainly hope that you all have had a wonderful start to your day. It's a pretty wonderful Wednesday. So it's a little hard to see inside the flame. I can see a lot better because of the special glasses I'm wearing. They have a filter that takes out a lot of the yellow and orange color from the flame. But I'm slowly gathering up the end of this color rod, melting it down in the flame. I'm going to get enough mass down there to pretty much flatten it out with my clamps here, and that'll give me the basic shape for the rune. One of these days I'll find another set of lenses so I can actually set up the camera so you can see through the flame and see what I'm doing a little better. But we're just going to run with this today and see how it goes. Let's see, I've almost got enough mass here to get going. Gravity is a pretty important thing when you're in the glass studio. The glass is actually liquid, so you're pretty much just heating it up so it's a little more liquid and it starts moving. So I'm using gravity to pull the glass down as it melts and gathering it up into a nice ball. Oh, there goes the rain. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I've actually renovated 5 studios now before I moved into this one, and I knew exactly what I wanted, so I built this one from scratch, and I very purposely put a tin roof on it so that I'd be able to hear the rain. So we'll see if we can call in a little bit deeper rain so you can really hear when it gets pounding. I went and squished that down so it's a little bit flat. And then I'm going to take the sides and squish those down and kind of work it into the shape of a, I don't know, an elongated cube. If my mother's watching, there's probably some fancy math name for that, some rhomboid or something like that, but I, of course, don't recall that in the moment, the exact terminology. But it's basically a little glass tile. Now, as I'm building this, I'm also holding the intention to put a lot of energy into this. It's a pretty powerful rune, the Rune Pendant, and I want to make sure that I keep that in my heart as I work this glass. I've got it almost to the square I want. Now I'm going to use this little shaping block on top of my torch to squish the end down. Makes a little rectangular cube. Flatten it out a little bit more. And I've got some custom-made tools over here that I use. Well, this one's not as custom, but typically for a rune I use a butter knife. That's a nice little, the end ground off, and that gives me a nice long stamping point. But for the Rune Pendant, it's a little bit shorter in the symbol, so I'm going to actually use this screwdriver that I use for stamping the glass with. And let's see, I'm going to let it cool down a little bit on one side and heat up the side that I'm going to be working with. So I'll be able to actually stamp the rune into it. I don't get to make these very often, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that I'll find a good reason to make more of these in the future. They're really fun magic to play with. I had a very good friend of mine tell me that these are actually Celtic runes, the set that I work with. It's out of the Ralph Bloom book. And I found out recently from my mother, she did the ancestral genetic testing. We found out that we actually have some Celtic ancestry in our past. So that was pretty cool to find out. I've been working with the runes for many years before I found that out, so it was pretty cool to know that. So that was pretty quick. It went to the first time. Sometimes you have to mess with it a little bit. But I got that right on the first stamp. We'll see if you can see that. There's a rune looks like an arrow pointing to the side there. You can watch it as the glass melts down. It'll appear and disappear. Now that I've got that stamped, I'm going to take another punty rod, is what we call it, but it's just another rod of glass that we use as a tool. I'm going to use that to attach to the other end of my rune and be able to pull it off of the purple rod that I started it on. That way I can separate them. I'll have to go back and look at comments later after I'm done playing on the torch here. This, of course, takes pretty full attention to be able to work with this flame safely. So be patient with me if anybody's got questions out there. As you can see, I've got a little nub on top, and I'm actually going to use that to make a little pendant loop. So this is going to be a pendant rune you can wear as a necklace. Squish that down a little bit. And I used to do this a very tricky way that took a lot of effort, and thankfully I found this new tool they came out with. It's a pair of pliers that you can use. They're specially made for putting holes in pendants. Super, super grateful for these. Save a lot of time, a lot of bother. One of the things you have to do when you're working with glass is keep the glass warm. If you let it cool off too much, then you can get some tension and stress in it, and you get some cracks. So it's nice to have tools that work quickly and accurately, and you don't have to play with the pieces long. You put that in there, you give it a little clamp, pull that out, heat it up again, get my placement a little better. You can probably see my hands are a little shaky. I haven't been in the studio for 2 or 3 weeks, and This is why I do warm-ups when I haven't been in the studio for a while, because I'm a little bit shaky. That hole came through pretty well. I'm going to use, actually this is a welding bit. Since I'm not a welder, I'm not sure how they use it in welding, but it works great for glass blowing. I can use that to shape my pendant hole a little better. Get things lined up where I want them. And that's pretty much the pendant. I'll warm it up for you again. You can get a good look at it. For those of you that might not know, I actually only sell online at this point. I've got 3 shops. My main shop is petrichorarts.com, and then I've got petrichorarts.etsy.com and petrichorpipes.etsy.com. I wish I could put them all in one place, but there's some various rules and setbacks from society that keep me from doing that, so they're kind of spread out at the moment. But for those of you in my local tribe here in North Carolina, I'm actually getting ready to do a glass sale. On December 10th, I'm going to invite you all up to our homestead. Anybody wants to come out and see the collection, I've got all kinds of glass. Pretty diverse collection. Over 1,000 pieces in my inventory right now. And I'd love to have some of that connect with you and go home with you. Some nice homemade, unique gifts for you and your tribe and family. Excuse me. So let me heat this up a little bit and get ready to pull it off of the punty rod. I've got a set of grabbers here that goes in and out. You can grab the hot glass and not let it cool off too much on its way to the kiln. You should be able to see that behind me. There's a blue Paragon kiln. Now as you're working the glass, it does induce a little bit of tension here and there, so when you get done with it, you actually put it in a firing kiln. Pottery kilns are usually used for this. And I hold mine at about 1,000 degrees. Well, not overnight, but 1,000 degrees for about an hour, maybe 1150, depending on what's going in there. And that takes the tension out of the glass. It kind of heats it all up to the same temperature and lets it relax. And when it cools off over the course of the night, I pull it out of the kiln in the morning, and then all the glass is relaxed and a lot more safe in its stableness. So I'm going to pull off just that little bit of clear glass that's on there and rework that end. Make it nice and flat. Gotta be pretty quick with this so that it doesn't cool off too much in the rest of the glass. Now the crazy part about this is, I can show you real quick right here, but I've got to get it in the kiln before it cools off, and then I don't really get to see it until tomorrow morning. It's pretty interesting to work for 6-8 hours in a day and not be able to see the fruits of your labor until you're done, and then the next morning you have to sleep on it. But I'll put some pictures up in the morning and we'll see how that room turned out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this worked well for you, and I hope to do some more in the future. Have a beautiful, wonderful day. Love you!